So hello, Happy New Year 2016. Have a lot of fun with Java and Java EE, and now let's start with the very first topic. As always, you can tune in using the IRC and Twitter using the hashtag airhacks or Freenode airhacks channel, or just use the Ustream chat. It is also connected to the show. So the very first topic is an organizational topic. So what I did before the show, I just created all the new events for 2016. So as always, almost always the first Monday of the month and 6 p.m. So you can keep asking me questions. I will try to answer them. So if you go to the Ustream channel admin, you will see all the events for 2016. So I think it should be the third year of airhacks TV. And now start with the real topic, a shiny new server. So what I did, and this was funny, so I sent the airhacks news email, and I got some feedback like, don't hack the whole, Christmas with Java EE, and I actually didn't hack at all. What I did instead, I didn't hack the software, I hacked the hardware. So this is the inner workings of the new server. So I posted this image on Twitter, and now it's actually live. So I think it's 3 days it's live. So I migrated the software from the old one to the new one. And the only thing what I did is I replaced the power supply. So this was a little bit oversized. I bought a cheaper one, but it's more efficient. And surprisingly, the power consumption in idle mode of this machine is 25 watts, so which is not a lot. And some experimenting with some, Docker. I was able to see consumption to 40 watts, which is still not that much. What you see here is a nice cooler. So I just reused the old one from Noctua, also and this is a huge thing which keeps the server cool. And this is ECC RAM. I think 32 gigabyte of RAM, and it's the recent Xeon CPU, which is a little bit more expensive because it's a low energy one, but still extremely fast. It's a lot faster than the old one. As you can see, it's also rate of SSDs. I think this is the Samsung 850 series. The hardware is a little bit older, so I bought all the parts. I think, I don't know, half a year ago or something like this. But now I found the time to assemble this, and now it looks a little bit better than this. This was just I replaced the power supply so that this will look a little bit nicer. And it runs Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.2. And what I will do now, if it runs stable and seems like, I will just upgrade the old one as well. So I will have a staging environment as well. So nice thing. So if you're interested in this, what I also would do, I will cover this during the microservices workshops, because I got lots of questions about sizing and hardware. So I will spend probably, I don't know, a few minutes talking about hardware as well. We have also one question here at the airhacks TV. Okay, so this is the server. Usually I don't talk about hardware, but I get more and more questions about hardware. So it seems like it's interesting topic also for the airhacks TV listeners. Okay. The next topic, Java EE 8 progress. What I promised you the last time, I will track the progress of Java EE more closely. And there are the Christmas and there are vacations, so there is not lots going on in the Java EE 8 JSR world. What I noticed, a little bit slowdown since Java 1, so it's not like lots of activities. What I will try to do, and I hope I will do it this week. I was a little bit overloaded with my client work and with the hardware, with the server. But right now I will try to post, like overview of all the Java EE 8 spec, what the progress is, and if you like, you can participate. So what I'm thinking about is, if you would like, you can adopt a JSR, so one JSR, one API, and write posts about the progress. Then if you ping me, I will try to aggregate it somehow and make it more transparent. So this is what about Java 8. So what it means, it slowed down a little bit. I'm concerned about, I'm concerned about Vue APIs like the management and monitoring, which I will ping the spec lead actually. And yeah, so if you like, you can participate. If you're interested, just ping me which JSR you would like to monitor, and I will try to aggregate once a month and cover this as the I would call stationary topic of airhacks TV. Okay, so so this is not a lot of content. The next one. Oh, let's see whether there are something from the chat. As you can see, the chat is crazy. So I get more and more live participants. It is hard to measure this on Twitter. But this chat is really busy. So if you would like to ask something or you would like to suggest a topic, just do it right now. Okay, multi-module builds for Java EE. So let's switch here. I got a really sophisticated question here. And it repeats from time to time, but I actually will cover all the questions. So I don't like to to relate to all the shows, to the past shows, because because I will have to scan what I actually said and whatever. So I will try to answer questions regardless they were already answered or not. So the first one, it asked me, okay, there is basically it's small projects, but it grows over time, and there are lots of ears and modules and interfaces, and there are some problems like, if you do this, there are some duplication because the interfaces have to be in different modules, and also the problem was in JPA. And he also asked me question, what about JAX WS, which is SOAP? Is it better than remote interfaces or not? And so what I did, I expanded the questions to multiple questions here. First, multi-module builds for Java EE. So best practice. So I always ask about best practice. So what I can tell you is the following. I always start with the war. And if I get a multi-module builds, it's just because there are some, there are Vue wars which belong together. And I use the multi-module build to package them, not to package them, to be able to build everything at once. So I don't use the multi-module builds to have an ear which contains the wars. This could be also the case at the very end, but I use multi-module builds for convenience. But usually, most of my projects are just single wars, and I think this should be the best practice. If you don't manage to deploy a war, your project is probably too large. And I'm actually more and more confident about this. Last year we performed some refactorings and in the larger projects, and we were able at the end to ship a Vue wars. And prior to this, there were years with hundreds of EJB jars and stuff like this. So first one, multi-module build is, I wouldn't consider this as best practice. I would consider this a workaround or a convenience. What's best practice? Deploy small wars. So the next is dealing with interface and applications. First, as you probably know me already, interfaces are not a best practice in Java EE. So what comprises an interface in Java EE are public methods of an EJB or public method of CDI beans. It's interface enough. So I only allow interfaces in case you will get additional implementation. So let's say you get 2 implementations of something, of an algorithm, then you will need strategy pattern. And the strategy pattern, I think a strategy pattern is a good idea if you introduce an interface or abstract class for this. So the application, so this is also interesting. I think the application is either best practice or worst practice, but nothing in between. So in the microservice world, the application is good because with the application, you are independent. So you are buying independence with the application. In a more classical world, object-oriented world, the application is evil because you are replicated algorithms. So what I would say, I think, so if you are wars which communicate with each other, then you will get some applications. For instance, all the parameters, return values, even exceptions. There are no exceptions in REST, but all the API stuff is going probably to be duplicated because there is no binary representation of the API. What you just get a set of REST endpoints or HTTP endpoints. But if you have a really important algorithm, so which is crucial for your enterprise, this algorithm, like for instance insurance, yeah, calculation, should be never duplicated. So what you should do instead to create another service which encapsulates this algorithm, and then it stays somewhere. So this is the point of view, but what I think what you mean is with the question is, if I have multiple jars, how to share commonalities, and I would say, forgot about ears, forgot about jars, just think in wars, and if they have communicate, use REST, and then you get the duplication, but this is a good one. So what it means, you can move independently. So I hope it is enough. If not, what you can do, right? It's really hard. I mean, you should iterate over this topic, and see whether it still feels right. So this is actually the key point. Regardless what you are doing, whether you are going the microservice route or you're going, no, I'm just having one war with a few modules inside. It should feel right. If you have the feeling, your architecture slows you down, this is already a very bad sign. Okay, the next question, related question is SOAP or remote? So JAX WS or remote? And I would even say probably SOAP is even better than remote right now. Why? Because as you already know probably, there are lots of vulnerabilities with serialization right now, and we covered it actually in the last show, and which SOAP is also vulnerable, but the serialization can hit you harder. And with add remote is a little bit painful, because what most application servers do, they require you to use the library of the application server on the client side, and this usually means you have to ship the application server jars or to the client, and if you upgrade the application server, you have to upgrade the client. So there's this is not a really good way to communicate. What I would say, add remote and add local are deprecated in all projects. JAX WS is also duplicated. So if you actually, you should ask me JAX RS, RESTful Web Services, or remote. I would say JAX WS is really deprecated. So don't start a project with JAX WS. So how to share JPA entities between layers? So if you would like to share JPA between layers, it's actually not a big deal. What you can do, you can put all your entities to a jar, and then to refer from another jar to this jar and say, because the persistence XML has one entry, I think it's called jar file, and it can point to the jar file where all the JPA entities are residing. But having that said, I think this is not as a bad idea to put all the entities in one huge jar, because what happens then is, the entities is actually they are the domain objects. This is they are the concepts of your application. If you put everything in one jar, it becomes meaningless. You cannot name it. It get probably a meaningless name like domain entities or whatever. So I think what you should do instead is to put the entities to packages, to assign entities to a package, name the package properly, like for instance, I don't know, insurance, life insurance. So all the life insurance is too big name, like for instance, patient or client, and all patient related entities are in the patient entity. So what I tend to use is the boundary control entity pattern. What I also did, I get lots of good response last year and the year before about the BCE pattern, boundary control entity, BCE. And even if you're interested in this, if you search NMBean and BCE, so there is the boundary control entity pattern, and it even comes with an archetype, so with a sample app which shows you the packaging. So if you like, just try this out. Probably you will like it. Okay. So what I tend to do, I don't share the JPA entities between wars. What I do instead is each war gets an own set of entities. So the question is, what happens if some entities have to be shared between wars? Then it could be a good idea is, to create another war which encapsulates the entities and expose them via REST. This can, of course, cause proliferations of wars, but usually you are able to manage this without any complications. So you shouldn't exaggerate, you know. So usual Java EE projects, I would say there are a few wars, you know, 1 to 5 wars, and this basically is. It's not like you will starting to create 50 wars and call them microservices and then get some headache how to orchestrate them. Okay, I think we covered this. And latest, what I'm pretty sure I wrote a blog post. If not, I will write one. And being persistence XML, and I think it's called Jfile. Or if not, I will write one. No, seems like not. So I will write a short blog post about this. So it will document, you know, how to point from a service jar to the entities. So what you can do, you can package the persistence XML in one jar and group all the entities together in another one. Okay. Just briefly look at the okay. Connection too slow, but it seems right to the others. Okay. Packaging background jobs, and I just picked the question because this is really interesting. So the packaging background jobs, what I do right now is, for instance, I have a background job created actually today, and this is this one. What it does, this is the whole archive of my blog, and this is a background jobs which runs behind the scenes and creates. If I started, it creates, you know, the static page which comprises all the blog posts from starting in 2006. So the last 10 years of my blog. Crazy how long I already write. So what it actually is a Nashorn. This is actually, you will see, this is this annotated SPG, so both Nashorn. But the interesting point is, it is actually a Docker image. So the whole background process is a Docker image which is started and then stopped, and it just creates this. So it is like, for me, it's like a command, but it comprises multiple steps. And in Java EE world, what you could do, exactly the same, you could have one war with just background jobs. So why war? Because you can expose via REST services, for instance, a simple administration or monitoring interface to the outside world and show, you know, what your application is doing. And this is perfectly possible with JAX-RS. So this war could just, you know, become active using, for instance, the schedule annotation or a timer service, do something, and then just sleep and wait until something happens from the outside world. So so the background jobs could be packaged separately. They don't have to, but they could be. So basically, just back to the best practices. What I consider best practices, if there are no additional requirements regarding lifecycle, versioning, or whatever, I try, you know, to put everything in one war, in very lean war, kill all the bloat, and usually everyone is happy. But if you have to, if you have multiple teams which they have to, you know, to work independently, then I would introduce wars, additional wars, but not from the beginning. I hope we covered the first question. If not, ping me. So the next one is nice, because this is what actually somehow related to the shiny new server. So and there's about 500 concurrent users with SOAP, and this is a little bit vague because you cannot, you know, with this, you cannot, you cannot write a proper sizing for this. But the question is, no, regardless what the requirements are, what to do. First, he asked me specific questions, which Linux version 64-bit, of course, JVM is the latest one, always, and hardware size, which server RAM size, CPU core. So first, I think the total cost of my server are about, I would say, it's really hard to say, less than 2,000 euros. Far less than 2,000 euros. I think even 1,500 or whatever. So for an enterprise, this is really nothing. And so what it means, which server RAM size and CPU cores, as much cores as possible. And RAM size, my server has 32 gigabyte of RAM, and I think it was ECC, it was crazy expensive RAM. So this ECC RAM cost me, it is from IBM, it was like a few $100. So I spent, I think, 300 or 400 bucks for euros for 32 gigabyte fastest RAM. And as a backup, I bought non-ECC RAM, and I think I spent for 16 gig 70 euros. 70 euros. So what it means, for 140 euros, you will get 32 gigabyte of RAM. So what it means is RAM size, I would say 32 gigs. CPU cores, so my CPU did cost, I think, 400 or 500 euros, and I think it has, now is the question, I think it has 4 cores and 16 threads or something like this. Yeah, the more cores you have, the better, of course, it is, because you can start more independent containers. So, but this is usually, so why he asked me the questions, probably because what I'm telling you is the reality, and most costs within the enterprise are not real. So you are spending per month, I don't know, several thousand euros for 1 gigabyte of RAM or something like this. So if you really have to save money with hardware, so how much RAM you have? So we have several application servers in production. This is Payara, this is Glassfish, Whitefly, WebLogic, and they are really happy with 2 gigabyte of RAM. So with 2 gigabyte of RAM, you can run perfectly 500 users usually. So because it really depends what the user is doing, right? If the user is I don't know, streaming video into a memory, you will get some problems with RAM. So I would say in a typical case. I remember last year I was involved in a project. It was JSF based project, so there were 2,500 users with 2 gigabyte or 4 gigabyte of RAM. So I think it started with 2 gigabyte of RAM, and we ended with 4 gig. But we didn't optimize the JSF at all. We just, in this company the RAM was cheap, so we just increased the memory. So I would say memory is not a problem in general. If you have to spend to assign too much memory, in one point of time you have to tune the garbage collector, which can be problematic. Okay, bandwidth is really hard to say, but I would say I have 1 gigabyte bandwidth because a 1 gigabyte network, I just created it because it does matter, right? In a company, so if it is an internet application, it really depends what you're doing. If you look at my blog, for instance, it's extremely lean. Why? Because on my blog there is not even JavaScript. So I don't know how big the origin page is. It is generated by a template from Roller, but I tried to eliminate whatever I could. And my connection is very thin actually. So this is hard to say, the network attribute. So now, what I always do in commercial projects, so this was a little bit mixed answer, but what I do in commercial projects, I do the following. We start with a prototype, or we have some initial use cases, then we run a stress test. So if you're interested, this is a little bit. So there is a Java 7 testing course, and I try to show you how to performance measure the application. So if you are interested in this, so this is a commercial one, but you can rent, I think, for 1 week for $9 or something like this. So what we tend to do is the following. We're starting a stress tests using, for instance, a JMeter. And I would try to create 500 users with sessions. And then I use memory analyzer tool. This is Eclipse MAT. And Eclipse Memory Analyzer is a really nice tool. And also as Eclipse, you don't have to install plugins. It just comes out of the box and is usable. So you can just download this. And with so during the tests or after the tests, we create a heap dump, and then we can analyze with memory analyzer the heap dump, and you get a you get a really detailed view how big actually the memory per user has to be. So this is what I do. So it's so we get a rough estimation, precise estimation. How big the memory requirements are. And usually CPU is not the problem in enterprise apps. What's the problem is I/O to the database, and database itself, locking strategies, transaction strategies, all the integration points. These are the problems. CPU does not matter. So usually, so in banking apps, of course, if you have encrypt a lot or whatever, or if you have to generate some, I don't know, random numbers, it could need some more CPU, but usually CPU is not a problem. The more CPUs you have, the more modules you can run independently. This is actually the benefit of this. Okay. Now, question in the chat. No chat this time. Chat is really lazy. No questions in Twitter. Okay. So the next one, interesting one. Questions related to GMS and WebSockets. So basically, what's the difference? And can I use both? And this is interesting one because WebSocket and GMS are somehow similar. So GMS comprises two parts, point-to-point and publish-subscribe communication. So the publish-subscribe communication is similar to WebSockets. So you can send and receive messages. And this is publish-subscribe means, many listeners, many subscribers, the same as in WebSockets. The main difference is WebSockets is a standardized protocol. So you can go to the spec and you will see what goes over the wire. GMS is just a set of interfaces. So you don't actually, you don't know how the protocol is implemented. So actually you could implement publish subscribe over WebSockets. GMS over WebSocket. Someone would hopefully, as you can see, GMS over WebSocket. So there is even, so you see an older post, OpenMQ 501 is, seems like it is able to perform this. And there's different protocols. So, so what it means, the main difference between GMS and WebSockets is WebSockets is a protocol implemented by Java, but also JavaScript clients and HTML5, and GMS is just a set of interfaces which is more. It's just the API to point-to-point and to publish-subscribe communication. So transactions in real time. So to communicate its transactions. So WebSockets is not transactional. GMS is transactional. But I think what you mean here is to communicate, the actions in real time. So then you can use either WebSockets or GMS. With WebSockets, you have the advantage that you can also subscribe, JavaFX clients, Angularjs clients, JavaScript and HTML5 out of the box. GMS is usually a proprietary protocol. So you have to check first whether your application server supports something more portable. Okay, I hope this question is answered. Yeah, no activity here. Okay, now a bunch of other questions. How do you make a migration from PLSQL to Java EE? So if from tables to Java EE, it would be pretty simple. So what I do is here, I go to NetBeans and say, I thought I don't have a project. So there is new entities from database, and it will just generate JPA entities from database, and they are usable out of the box. So, but PL/SQL is more like, usually it means stored procedure, and stored procedure is more like service. And the stored procedure has a how to call it, a interface like, or it looks like a method, looks like a Java method, which can be invoked from JDBC, callable statement, or from JPA 2.1. So these stored procedures are integrated in JPA 2.1. Now, how I would migrate this? First, I will use either JDBC or JPA, probably JPA because easier, and then invoke the PL/SQL stored procedure and write an integration test for it. Why integration test? Because there's the fastest possible way to invoke something, right? So, and then I just would write a simple asserts and see whether this stored procedure behaves like what I expect. And then I will move the stored procedure call to a CDI control. It is probably a CDI control or even a boundary. It really depends. But we have already the test, so you could repeat the test and see whether the Java code behaves like the PL/SQL one. So this would be my migration strategy for PL/SQL. But if you expect, you know, some magic where you can just magically convert PL/SQL to Java, I don't have the answer for this. But you know, algorithm is the algorithm. You can just copy and paste the PL/SQL code to Java and make it compile and see whether the test passes. So my strategy would be write a wrapper around the PL/SQL procedure. Don't touch it first. Write a code in. Write an integration test in Java, which ends with IT, make it run. If it's green, migrate the code to Java, run it again, and see whether it's green. So the next one is if you want to compare Spring versus Java, who will be the winner, especially in the performance part? I don't think there can be a winner. Why? Because Java is just a set of APIs. It could be as fast, could be you know, twice as fast as Spring, or it could be also twice as slow as Spring. It really depends which application server you are using, and because there are small differences between application servers. Recently, an airhacks attendee just measured this, because what I actually did, YouTube Adam Bean. I registered what is faster, EJB or CDI. So what is faster, CDI or EJB? So part of the Java 8 testing course, and what I did, I recorded this, and what the attendees did, they performed some benchmarks even with Spring. And as you can see, the performance Spring was a little bit faster than EJBs on WebSphere. Yes. So this is one test. As you can see, there's not a lot of difference. So I would say it really does not matter. Spring it looks internally very similar to EJBs or CDI. There should be no difference. And usually you have other problems than you know, 5% of the performance. Okay, something happened here in Twitter. Can I use Groovy with JPA, I think, and JPA for data table class? Yes, you should be able to, because Grails is doing this. So it should be possible. So Groovy supports annotations. So if the annotations are supported, it is compiled to bytecode, it should be possible. Exactly. Someone says there could be a problems of performance because PL/SQL runs in a database. You should choose very well what can be migrated to EJBs. Of course. But if you have to migrate, you know, you have to test this. And what you also have to think about is, of course, you know, if the PL/SQL is near the data in the database. If you move the PL/SQL stored procedure to the application server, the data has to be serialized over sockets, sent to JDBC driver. You know, on the other side, you get JPA. There's lots of overhead of communication with the database. So, but this was not the question, but you are absolutely right. So we covered, I think, this one. It's also always, you know, what we should say, like, you know, Java EE is twice as fast as Spring, and wait for the reactions. So, you know, 5 years ago, it would be, I don't know, I think my server would catch some flames because of overload if someone would say something like this. To be realistically, I would say it should be no difference from the performance point of view. For Java 8, we will have a support for NoSQL DBAs in JPA 2.2. I don't think so. Java 1, 2 Java ones ago, there was one BOF about this topic, and it's really hard because there is no NoSQL database. Every NoSQL database is a little bit different, and the question is the basic question is what we could do in JPA to support NoSQL. There's not obvious answer. No, we have already the metadata, and there are already, for instance, Eclipse links can be mapped to different NoSQL databases. So if you go here, Eclipse link, NoSQL. Or even here, 2.5 JPA extension is more recent. So there is NoSQL annotation already in Eclipse link, and even out of the box, it supports you can map JPA entities to the database. So NoSQL and Hibernate is called OGM NoSQL. The same is true with Hibernate OGM. What it does is MongoDB, CouchDB is supported with JPA. So I don't think something will happen. But again, what you can do if you're interested in JPA 2.2, just track the progress, what happens in the spec. You know, write some blog posts and ping me, and I will aggregate all the results, and we will cover this 1 month later. So I don't think it's something in this area happens soon, because this the NoSQL databases are too different. So I think it will be hard to standardize anything. Do you recommend using search engine like Elasticsearch? Yes. So if you have the requirements, we use Elasticsearch successfully in Vue projects, works great if you have the requirements. If yes, which engine you recommend? There is Elasticsearch and Solr. This Solr is this one. They are both similar. It seems to me like Elasticsearch gains a little bit more momentum than Solr, but I could be wrong. But it's my personal perception. So Elasticsearch and Solr. And what you use in the past is how it's called, Hibernate Search. So it's directly integrated with JPA entities. So what's the difference? Hibernate Search uses JPA annotations, JPA annotations, own annotations to provide additional metadata, what to index, and this works really perfectly. So what you can even get the relevance of the results. So this is like white box integration, right? Because you will provide additional metadata to your JPA entities, and make them full text searchable. So Solr and Elasticsearch are like services accessible via REST. So this is more like a NoSQL database with full text search capabilities. I actually, I would suggest both. Again, I think Elasticsearch gains a little bit more momentum than Solr, at least my perception. So what happens here? Very good. There's Hibernate OGM as well. Perfectly anonymous 4405. You are right. So this is, I also said this. It's not censored. It's perfect. So we have this. There is no censorship in airhacks. So then move to the next one. Devoxx France, NetBeans Day Paris. Devoxx France probably. Let's see what it is. So this is a nice question because it reminded me of something. So is Java capable of the right choice for a VoIP service? The answer is yes. First, jcp.org, and I think 359. So SIP stands for Session Initiations Protocol, and it was approved in 11th April of 2015. It's the final release, and this is the session. The SIP is the first stage of Voice over IP, and it is meant to run on top of Java 6 standards, and so Java 7. As you can see, it will align with Java 7, but it's not an integral part of Java 6 or Java 7. It's more like extension, but it's perfectly integrated. And if there was an older product called Sailfin, it was Glassfish based. So look at this. It's an older one, and I don't think it is well maintained anymore. What is this? Okay, this one. So look at this. And I think this is Glassfish communication server. And this was a Glassfish server with voice over IP capabilities. So it's not only supported, it is implemented. I don't know what the current state is, which server to use currently, but it was used a lot, and there were even several sessions about this. So yes, it is supported, and look at the specification, and yeah, this is, I think, a good starting point for you. Okay, next one. And now we have a really nice question, so with some pictures, and I know Mr. Monge because he attended the airhacks, the recent airhacks in Munich. So it was this one behind me. So this was exactly, I did it during the airhacks, so it was the Christmas airhacks. And in Munich there was about 5 degrees Celsius. Why it's so funny, I already explained the story. Mr. Monges is from Costa Rica, so in Costa Rica a little bit warmer than in Munich. And there were some attendees from north of Sweden, where it's usually colder than in Munich, but it was too cold from the attendees from Sweden and was perfectly fine from Mr. Monges. So this was the funny topic actually. So, and he asked me something interesting. So we have, so he asked me a question now how to implement single sign-on for Angularjs, and I just suggested this key cloak from Red Hat. Or there's another one, is called OpenID, I think. So it's this one or Keycloak. Also my perception, a Keycloak is a little bit more popular. So, and now he asked, okay. He says, okay, we have one realm and another realm, and they communicate with each other. And the question is, you know, is it possible to do this? So there is one Keycloak realm and the another one, and this app REST API would like to call this one. And this is called federation. So what you are searching for is federation. And if you search for Keycloak federation, you will find answers. And what Keycloak supports this federation, I think only for JNDI and Active Directory, but this is supported. If federation, if this is not this what I'm searching for, you can also cluster Keycloak, but I think what you would like to have is 2 different realms. I think what might work is inversion of control, because Keycloak has OAuth. What you could do, this REST API could register in this API, and you could free then the you know, you can assign the token that this server can call this one, and then it will be like integration of Twitter apps. This would work like this, like with the out of the box OAuth protocol. But if you just would like to call from this one to here, you would have to look at Keycloak federation. Yeah, because they have 2 different data sources, and so they are independent of each other. And this was the very last question. I will just look at the chat, but there is nothing specific. So this was a fast one, 45 minutes, which is actually great. So if you don't have any questions left, I covered everything. I would say thank you for watching. Think about, you know, tracking Java 8. I will aggregate everything, and see you soon. There's in April, there are already very well attended airhacks edition, the Spring edition, without Spring. And we get the microservices continue in Java 7 in January, end of January, and this is already pretty well attended. So I'm really looking forward to this too. And what I did, I changed the microservice workshop completely. I think I will code all the time right now, because it is really hard to explain microservices on slides. And as well, there's JavaScript for Java developers and HTML5 for developers. What I plan to do here, I would start with ECMAScript 6 as well. And we'll also extended course and HTML5. I will also cover Embed 2 and probably React. Okay, so thank you for watching. If you like, subscribe to airhacks news. This is the airhacks news. So this is like a meta mailing list. And yeah, see you in Munich in projects or in Java world. So thank you for watching and bye.